In the 1980s, Mark Cummings, who worked with Henry at the center, invited me to come and share some of my music with Henry. And I had a cassette called Himalayan Bells, and that was my one of my first major albums that I made. And I didn't have any money, but I didn't ask for any money, so I didn't get any. so I had to keep doing everything by hand because I didn't have the machinery to do it. But I actually met Henry, and I gave him Himalayan Bells 2 on a cassette. He didn't say anything. And then I left. And tonight I realized he did say something. He invited me here to play. Thank you, Henry. And also, in my upbringing, my father and I never really sat down and talked about anything. My father was very quiet. He was like an Indian. And he taught me to be quiet. Thank you.
The wind erases the footprint, but not the man. I know that Henry is alive in the hearts of those who were fortunate enough to know him and love him. I'm just going to read a short quatrain from Chinese, Tang Dynasty, which I translated, but first, my quote about Henry. I'm sure you've seen, so I don't really know if I can do it as well as he did, and I don't want to sound facile when I reproduce it, but whenever he saw a little child, I mean a very little child, did you ever notice what he'd do? He'd just stand there and look at the child, and the child would look at Henry, and then the hand would go up, and he'd do this. Very slowly, finger by finger, and the kid would go, oh, this guy's not waving. Oh, he is waving. He's just sort of breaking it down. And then the kid would kind of like lift his hand, and he'd do that. Did you ever see this? I think we've all seen Henry do this, and it was a remarkable way that he planted a seed in every child he met. Thought. Vast oceans are merely creased by waves. Deep with cunning are the hearts of knaves. Water evaporates eventually, the bottom shown. When someone dies, their final thoughts remain unknown.
What I loved about Henry, my name is Sun, by the way, what I absolutely adored about Henry is that he always was in on the cosmic joke. He always knew the funniest thing that was going on, and he might be the only one noticing, and he would sort of look at you to see if you noticed, and if you did, then you could share the laugh with him. And he was so underspoken about it. And the story that I wanted to share is one of my favorites. A few years ago, or not that many, maybe 2 years ago, we had this great idea that we wanted to have a celebration of Henry. We wanted to have a birthday celebration or just something to honor him because we loved him so much. And we thought it would be a good idea to get Virgilia to help us create a list of people who might be the right people to come to a special celebration of Henry. And so we sent Virgilia an email to say, Virgilia, what do you think of this idea? Let's have a surprise party for Henry, invite all his friends, you know. And much to my amazement, I got this email back that said, "This is a terrible idea. Don't even think of it. Henry would never appreciate such a thing." And of course, I was completely shocked. And I wonder, Virgilia, to this day, did you even know I sent you that email? No. What I learned is that Virgilia didn't do her email. Henry did Virgilia's email. And of course, I only found out much later.
I just wanted to share just a little story. I was about 10 years ago traveling around India, and I was traveling with Mira, who's Henry's sister. So I had a great time. Mira helped me kind of get my feet on the ground and get comfortable, with all the chaos and everything. So we went up to Bhopal and met a bunch of the, people in the little villages and so forth. And around that time, I was starting to become awakened to how, Mira, who's not here, but she's an amazing person, really humbled me in a lot of ways, just as far as her compassion and giving. So I want to honor her also. But when I was in Bhopal, I kept meeting people who were saying, when they found out I was Henry's son, they couldn't believe it. They were like, "Wow, that's absolutely amazing." For me, I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, well, Henry didn't really talk too much about what he'd done, so I started hearing about what he'd done from other people. And so this is kind of like, exponential overload from as far as what started for me 10 years ago. Or even before that, but whatever, you get the point. So I have my little stories of gadgets that he would, hand off and this kind of thing. When I was young, it didn't really, mesh too well. I wanted a, baseball bat or video game or whatever, but he was careful to give me a little machine so I could learn how to type, So not exactly what a 10-year-old wants to be doing during the summer, but he knew better, So I appreciate that, the foresight. And the last little lesson that he left me with was over the summer I was hanging out and just trying to make my effort to keep conversation moving along. And there was an article on the table. It was about WikiLeaks, and it's something I'd just been studying on the internet. The whole you're mostly all probably familiar with it when the Apache disaster and all that. But I was just trying to roll with conversation, and his response was, instead of elaborating, he just said, "Well, read it." So to me, that was like, at first it was a little hard, but I think that was the best thing he could have said, because that's what he wants us to do, is to study and to put in our own effort, not just to rely on other people to give you the quick answer, but, to really read the whole article. Don't just ask someone to give you the quick and, quick, easy explanation. So that was the biggest thing was, for me, kind of meant like he was acknowledging, like, his time's over, but it's for us to keep the legacy of learning and studying and activism. So it's up to us. Yeah.